Hi guys, welcome back to Project Unstuck episode 4. I am so excited because our first guest expert interview today is with a really incredible woman, Jessica Chichester. Did I pronounce that right? Chichester?
Yeah, Chichester, Chichester. It's all
Chichester.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jessica is the creator, co-owner, and founder of Oat Healing Oasis Wellness Center in Stamford, Connecticut. She's also the founder of the Sage Center, where they host educational classes and workshops to help us strengthen our mind, body, spirit, and financial well-being. Jessica has been in the health, wellness, and spiritual science fields for over 25 years with backgrounds in a range of spaces from nutrition to aromatherapy, shamanic arts, meditation, self-hypnosis, dream work, to name just a few. So she is also a Hall of Fame athlete, which this is quite an incredible resume. So welcome, Jessica. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Stefanie.
So because this episode today, we're digging into how to reprogram our subconscious beliefs and our subconscious mindset to really get us unstuck. I want to dig into first, how did you get started in this space, in the subconscious mindset space? What really triggered your interest in this?
Well, I've always just really been curious about life and people and how our brain works. And, when I was a kid, I really struggled with mental health issues. And at the same time, I was always really spiritual and I had guidance, but just within a certain area. So, after school, instead of doing my homework, I went to the bookstore around the corner from my house. I went to the bookstore around the corner of my house, and I would study a lot of quantum sciences. And so that's how I got into it.
Wow, that is so cool. So let's just dive right in because, again, this is something that's really important. And in Project Unstuck, we're really exploring the 3 different elements that we need to get unstuck professionally. And those, in my opinion, are confidence, clarity, and new opportunities aligned with our career sweet spot. But today we're really digging into confidence and the mindset because I really believe, and Jessica, I would love to hear your opinion as well, this is the key to unlocking your next level of success. If you don't believe that you can achieve something, if you have these limiting beliefs running around in your subconscious that you're unaware of, that you don't really realize how they're affecting you, this can really block your success. So this is why I wanted to dive into this with you as you're the expert. But talk to us about, what percentage of our day is run by the subconscious mind? How important is this for people to understand?
So everything that we do is based on what we think. But we don't have to believe every thought we think. And that's where people get stuck. It's instead of watching our thoughts, we jump into them and we believe that we are our thoughts. Instead of watching the flower bloom, we think that we are this flower, right? There is that separation. So again, it's important to recognize not every thought we think is ours. And with that, having an understanding of the neuroscience behind it. Because up to 70% of the thoughts that we think every day are disempowering thoughts. And by the time that we're 35, 93% of all of our actions are just on automatic pilot from this subconscious programming that we've just been used to triggering over the years. As I'm talking, thinking about your own habits, what do you automatically do when, not that you have to answer, but thinking about, what do I do when I walk in the house? What's the first things that I end up doing? So watching how some of those are just on autopilot.
Right. And that's, I think, why it's a little scary as well when you think about where did these beliefs all come from? We know that they're running the majority of our day. And I think only about 5% of our day is run by our conscious minds. This is where we can actively decide to make decisions and take action aligned with our goals and our dreams. But that's only 5%. So with 95% being run by the subconscious and then 70% of our day having those be in disempowering subconscious thoughts, it's scary because a lot of these things we picked up when we were a child, they're really not our own. So it's often usually just a product of our environment. So what were you told as a kid? What were your parents saying to you? And I gave this example earlier today on a podcast, and So for example, if you were a loud kid, I was a very loud kid growing up. I had a lot to say. I wanted to always,
Yeah,
you
me
know,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to always like speak up in class. And so I heard a lot from, my classmates, please, like, Stephanie, shut up, close your mouth, like, be quiet. And so
Yeah.
I had a bit of a belief growing up that, I needed to be quiet. I needed to make myself smaller, and people didn't want to hear, what I had to say. And so, that's not true. And I realized that, but that's just one of the examples of how your environment and the societal pressures and people around you can really influence this. And so
Yeah.
knowing that the majority of our day is not run by our conscious mind and is not empowering, what can people do to begin to start recognizing what these beliefs are? Because I think that's really the first step, right? Becoming aware first, and then we can begin to change them.
So the point is, right, if I'm aware of that, if I'm aware of the fact that that there's areas of my life that I can grow in, I'm not confident enough, right? If you just take that, okay, I'm aware of, I'm not confident enough. Okay, what am I not confident about, right? And maybe part of this goes into journaling, right? Or some people go to therapy, or something where you can still your mind, meditation, singing, going for a walk, something where you can get into a flow state, right? But while you're in that state, asking yourself the questions, or before you go into that state, asking yourself the questions. So let's say even you want to go do a workout, and you're like, okay, well, I know my intention for today, my workout today is to run a mile. All right, I'm going to set my brain. I'm going to, right now, just kind of lock it in. I'm going to set my brain to say, all right, what do I need to work on in order to get more confident? And I really believe in asking yourself the questions and not searching for the answer. Like, don't look for the answer. You'll live your way to the answer. So, meditation, journaling, exercising, getting into a flow state, right? Where you can recognize, hey, these are some things that I want to work on. And what are my triggers, right? Am I triggered when I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? This is what one of the points in Alcoholics Anonymous is. It's called HALT, like halt, stop, wait a minute, what's my trigger? So getting yourself to a point where if I can realize that I don't have to believe every thought I think, I'm going to make a definitive claim today, just even if it's for an hour, to just watch my thoughts. And then go into, well, are there certain behaviors that I can do to change my thoughts? See, we need to change the behavior. Mm-hmm. So how does it, the behavior is a hard thing to change. How do you change a behavior? It's not one thing. It's not a prescription. It's not, here you go, here's a Xanax, right? I mean, that could be part of it for some people. And there's nothing wrong with that, but watching that, something definitively to change that behavior and building a lifestyle around it. So for example, I like to set my morning up with meditation. I have a certain, like, my own personal prescription, right? I have an arsenal bag of things that I like to do to get myself into a feel-good state, because my goal is to be in peace. If the goal is to be in peace, and then I know that every connection I make, every situation I go in, I'm going to go into it with a sense of joy and peace and passion and purpose. And if I don't get to everything on the list, then the rest is here tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And we move on. So offering self that love and that forgiveness too, because I think we're so tight. So how do we come down, right? We come down by establishing good routines, not becoming OCD about them, allowing fluidity and flexibility, and then doing things that feel good, like literally running toward what feels good.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much I want to unpack there. You touched on so many great points. But let's start with getting into the flow state, because I think this is so important. And so one of the ways that I work with my clients, and actually, guys, if you subscribe to Project Unstuck, you can download the worksheet that goes along with this episode, where there's actually a list of statements where you basically rate from rarely to often how true this is for you. So one of the statements is, as an example, and this is probably not exactly because I'm pulling it off the top of my head. I believe in myself and my ability to succeed. How often do you think that's true for you? So you would rate yourself from rarely to never. But before we do that exercise of trying to identify the beliefs, getting into that flow state first, I think is so important so that we can really calm down our mind, our body, and then become aware of how to position ourselves as the watcher, right? Because like you had said, we are not our thoughts. And I think that's the first bit of separation that we need to make, is that every thought you have is not true. And when I made that realization, it really changed my life, because I said, you know what? I don't need to believe all of these different thoughts. And I also would just start naming. I created these character profiles. And this is actually something I learned in an eating disorder therapy with my eating disorder therapist. And so you have these different voices in your head, right? I, for example, was a still am, very big hypochondriac, very nervous about all kinds of different health anxieties. And so when I hear those thoughts pop up in my head, like, ooh, I have this pain in my ribs, am I dying? I say, okay, I named this character Anxious Andy, because he's always, calling out the things that are, health anxieties. And so by naming it, calling it out, that creates a nice level of separation between yourself and those thoughts. So I think that's one really great tool. But you had also mentioned, when we're starting to change our behaviors, we need to start small, and it's a matter of accumulating things over time. And I think the biggest issue that typically happens when people try to start a new habit is they go from 0 to 100. So it's like they're sedentary, they don't do any kind of physical activity, and then I'm going to try to go to the gym 3 days a week. Just start by putting on your shoes, right? Like small actions. But how did you personally start to build these healthy routines into your life to help strengthen your mindset?
So at this point in my life, when I was young, I did a lot of it by push, just by sheer will. Mm-hmm. And the problem with using sheer will is it could be very lonely. It could be, you don't have time to reflect and listen, like, what are the needs of my soul at the time? And you could actually disassociate from your body, which we've all have experienced trauma. I experienced a lot, just like you. When I was a really young kid, I struggled with eating disorders as well, on top of just other mental health issues. And, the sheer will is in some ways commendable, but its silence is a true speaker. Mm. And at this point, when you say, how do you get yourself to do something? How do you get yourself to change little habits? I literally call on Tigger energy. Tigger, from Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
And I call it, so I've been a school teacher for 18 years, right? And it helps me to keep everything light, middle school. And I created something and I called it BBP, which was bounce back power. We're all going to fall short. We're all going to mess up, and it's all going to go to shit at some point in the day or in time or in your mind, even if for a fraction. You're going to get caught up in that thought, and that's what's going to happen. But it's about recognizing that. And, okay, how quickly can I bounce back out of this, right? That sounds simple, but how do I bounce back out of this? So I like to really pay attention, right? If my goal for the day is to be peaceful, right? Is to maintain my peace and be peaceful on purpose and to protect my peace, then I'm going to see all these little things, right? Peace, 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 that come after me that are peaceful. And the peaceful also connects with different celebrations, different things during the day that I can celebrate, whether it's I didn't forget my blue light glasses, and I have my favorite essential oil, and I like this mug, whatever it is, really honoring the tiniest of things our little creature comforts, not even just physical, but emotional or whatever they are, and celebrating those little things as they pop up. And then there's less room for this, why didn't you do this? This anxiety behavior, this neurotic, nope, I gotta stay within these lines. No. Does Tater stay within the lines? No, and he's effing happy. It's happy when we're not within the lines, you know? So maybe even, you know, we always say like, and you hear all these podcasts and people say, like these big people say, you know, like, I'm gonna have your goal for the day and morning routines. And you're like, yeah, that's good, but maybe you can mix it up a little bit too. Why don't you, like, the first thing in the morning, it's like the intention is to tap into that feeling place, not like, what is that thought thinking? What does it want to feel? No. Okay, I'm going to position myself for peace. What does that look like in my body today? What does that look like in my environment today? So it's not about focusing on not being unstuck. It's about focusing on what makes you feel free.
I love that. So, and you had mentioned something earlier that I want to dig into as well, which is that, you know, you would apply just sheer will to get, you know, to try to adopt a new habit. And a lot of the listeners here, they're in a place of extreme burnout, right? Because when we're finding ourselves stuck in our careers, whether that means you're stuck in a 9-to-5 or your own business, both can happen. We often will be very burnt out. And this was my experience. You know, really, it deeply affects our mental and our physical health. Both, you know, both can really take a toll. So when we are trying to, you know, adopt new habits, given that we're already burnt out and we're already struggling and we already are so strapped for time and for energy, I think we have to find a healthy balance between applying that discipline and the will, but also listening to our bodies and checking in with our bodies, like you're saying, and really seeing, you know, do I have the energy to pursue this today? So, you know, this is something that was really difficult for me as a very, you know, high achiever, people pleaser my whole life, really wanted to just do what made the people around me happy and just have, you know, the external success. And so I lost touch with my body. I lost touch with myself and what felt right for me. And so coming into entrepreneurship and trying to find the balance between honoring my body and, you know, recovering from burnout, but also applying discipline and taking the steps when I can to start adopting these new habits is so important, because we need to be able to find the middle ground and not go into one extreme or the other. Because again, this is about really tapping into yourself. And this is, I love when you said that go towards the things that feel good. It seems so simple to just move towards what feels good, but that can really be one of the easiest ways to start both aligning with your true path and start taking the action that is best for you. So you had mentioned HALT, which stands for, actually, I'll let you tell us that, because I think I forgot. Or hungry, angry, lost, and
lonely.
Oh, hungry, angry, lonely, and what's the T? Tired. So that sounded to me a lot like burnout, right? So do you think that working this misaligned job contributes to HALT, burnout? And, you know, how do you see these two things playing together? Are they kind of similar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we both know the answer, right? Because when you're, it's so, and I'm listening, when you're not, like, we're so focused on exercising our body, but like our soul wants to exercise. It wants to move. It wants to be able to celebrate. It wants to connect, right? That's why we have plants in our house and we want to go on vacation. What, you think it's just the environment? Like, your soul wants freedom. It wants those ions from the beach. Yeah. It wants to move fluidly like the palm trees. Like, don't kid yourself. You know, or if it's the mountains, like, they give you some sort of added strength. I mean, all these different places in nature have a different frequency. And, like, not saying that you have to be in nature, but whatever you do that brings you that joy, your soul wants to connect and your soul wants to speak. And if what's happened in the area that we live in, is that we're so congested. Our job is congested. You're gonna get exhausted. Watch what happens while I say this. Your job is congesting, and then the demands keep on growing, and then the traffic is even more congesting. And then what happens when I have to go into the grocery store? And even if I order my groceries online, there's 15 different types of whatever it is. So now I'm congested, and now I have so many options, and I'm completely not satisfied. Right? So options increased, time decreased, satisfaction lessened, human connection depreciated. So where are we in the midst of all of this? You know, taking off a day here or there, or these holidays that are supposed to be days off, like get out of here. Holidays for so many people, I mean, maybe it's a little different now, but at least for me, they were always seen, even though I love my family, an obligation. That's not my time. That's not my time. Yep. And when we're constantly holding the fire hose, how are we going to get replenished? Yeah. So yes, being in a job that you're not aligned in is definitely en route for causing burnout. And I think some people also feel like, man, but if I start diving into my soul, here's a fear. If I start diving into my soul, then is it going to call me to do something where I can't get paid? And I have to pick up my life and I have to get out of this loop. But this loop is comfortable. It's predictable. I know this loop. Going back to that Winnie the Pooh analogy, right? Everybody knew their place. All these little animal, you know, all these little characters, right? They all knew their place. They stayed in this little grove. And that's where we are. We're used to the characters and all that. But I just encourage you, it's just about the little steps. It's the little steps of celebration. Stop jumping, right? We're in a microwave culture. Get out of the microwave mindset. Stop jumping to something big. Like, oh my God, if I go on this retreat, then I'm going to want to be a shaman and it's going to all go to hell and I'm going to lose my house and my family and my husband's going to think I'm insane and forget about it. Like, stop going from 0 to 100. Like, this is not Fast and the Furious, you know? This is like slow simmer.
Yeah. Being able to rein that in and just notice, and this is again where it's so important to become the watcher. Notice when you're starting to spiral into these irrational fears. We very often will look at the worst case scenario for pursuing this unconventional path, and our brain is going to tell us every reason why this isn't going to work. And again, because of our subconscious programming and all of the things that contributed to our beliefs, the environments, they're naturally going to try to, your ego and your subconscious are going to try and convince you of all the reasons that this isn't going to work because of what it's experienced so far. And that's, I think, what's so difficult for anyone that's trying to make a change in their life, really reprogramming those beliefs so that you can start to take this aligned action is the key. And so what are some of the things that you recommend that people do to start changing their limiting beliefs and reprogram their subconscious?
Okay, that's a great question. Number one, be intentional with your morning. Your morning is a your morning is a sacred and holy time. You know, and what does that mean? That means being intentional with how you end your day. Are you going to bed early enough? Are you having tea? Are you not having coffee too late in the day? Like, what are the things that are setting you up for the right sleep? You know, and maybe you need to do a brain dump in your calendar, right? So being intentional about how you start your day, but also being intentional about how you end your day, and like having those check-ins throughout the day, and those check-ins with your calendar, those check-ins with your self-thought, etc. That's number one. With that, right, in the morning routine, whether it's prayer, meditation, exercise, something that gets you into a good state. So like for myself, the way that I start my day every day is on a device that we have at HHO called the Beamer, which is a blood flow treatment. And if your blood is flowing 30% faster systemically throughout your entire body, then I'm getting more oxygen. I'm getting more energy. I'm decreasing stress. I'm pushing out toxins. Stress is also a toxin. It causes the blood to constrict. So nothing can move. So I start my day on the Beamer. I also start my day with the Paseo, which is, I should just run to go get it. I didn't bring it over here, but
you can go get it if you want.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, just to give people a view of what that looks like, because I actually was when I first read this, I was like, I don't think I've ever heard of this. Um, Even the
No.
Beamer, there's so many cool technologies that you're sharing with us. I love it.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
somebody
cool.
who's an avid meditator and prayer for praying with my entire life with praying, meditating since I was 15 years old. So pretty much, but this is a Pasayo, and it's a new form of, it's new to, to the US, but not to the world. The form of medicine it's called is a psychomed, right? Psycho mind. So it uses sound and lights simultaneously. So I put these headphones on, I put these glasses on, I pick a program. So there's 150 different programs. And what it does is it uses, you can see the color. No, you can't actually see the color change. It uses sound and light simultaneously in different
Wow.
frequencies to push you into a meditative state where your subconscious can quiet down and your brain can reprogram itself.
Hmm.
Literally, there's over 150 different programs to this technology that you can download. Anything from relaxation and sleep to weight loss, separation, improving your finances, dealing with trauma. I mean, it gets so specific as I just had a breast explant and butt explant surgery.
Wow.
And they had a specific program for women who had trauma and surgery to their breasts, right? So they're working with neurologists, psychologists, all the other important ology people to create this technology so you can access that meditative state in a fraction of the time and really quiet the chatter.
That's
So that,
amazing.
yeah. So, starting your day off well. I mean, and these sorts of things are like, you can come into HHO and try them out. If you're watching the podcast, just mention it and we'll give you a free Pasayo session. It's really amazing.
Oh,
And I
that's
use it in
nice.
the morning. I use it in the night. And really just setting up your day, right? Like being intentional. What are you going to eat? Right? What are you going to drink? Like, and really honoring those things. So having a connection to your food, like having a connection to your water, like finding connections with people, like these are all things that we're really craving. We're running, but we're really craving a connection to whatever it is.
Yeah. And so, guys, I know not everyone will be able to access this technology. If you're in the Connecticut area, definitely go check it out because that seems amazing. I'm gonna have to try that too because that I've never
Yeah.
seen that. Um, but if you guys don't have access to this technology, there are still some things that you can do to reprogram your subconscious. And to Jessica's point about setting up a strong morning routine, our mornings, like you said, are sacred. And so I've noticed in my own life when I have a solid morning routine, my entire day is impacted. So for me, my morning routine looks like waking up, making my bed, cleaning my apartment, getting my space into a place where I can focus because I have ADHD. So clearing the clutter is hugely important for me. And as I'm cleaning, I like to listen to affirmations. I think affirmations are probably one of the best ways to reprogram your subconscious. After that, I like to do a meditation, get outside, walk, get some sun on your face, work out, and then do some journaling and gratitude. So all of those things, I think you don't need any money for them. You don't need to go anywhere else. But whenever you're thinking about, again, changing your routines or starting a new habit, don't try to do it all at once, right? So us telling you our morning routines, we've spent time to develop these, right? We've done this for years. And so if you're just beginning, pick one thing, right? So maybe for you, it's affirmations. Just start with that. Do 21 days of affirmations and see how that affects you. Then you can start layering another habit on top of that. And I know that, have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
I started it actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like in that book, one of the biggest keys there is that with any habit, like we mentioned, you have to start really, really small and just get 1% better every day. We're not trying
That's
to
it.
go from 0% to 50%. We're trying to go from 0% to 1%, which is why if you're trying to develop a habit of going to the gym, the first day of you trying to develop that habit might just look like, again, you putting on your gym shoes and starting
Yeah.
to build that muscle. And so with that being said, we mentioned morning routines, but can we dig into the nighttime routines? Because I struggle with this a lot personally. And I know sleep is so important for us to recover from burnout and really, get ourselves in a healthy mindset. So what's a good nighttime routine that you recommend?
I love that you asked me this question. I love it. So I start, thinking about, so I love the power of visualization.
Me
And I'm
too.
doing it all the time, right? So
Yes.
like maybe I know for my body, and I'm just going to give you a little synopsis about what's going on with me so you can reflect on what's going on with you and what can work for you. So I know, like knowing your body, right? So I know that like, okay, if I want to go to bed at a decent time with my kind of energy, if I was going to have coffee, it's not good for me to have coffee after 11 o'clock or noon, right? Because unless I was going to go have a hard workout, but I know that I can't have a hard workout too late in the day because I get too energized. So knowing your body, like what things can you do or not do after, before certain times, what things are going to wind you up or put you down, right? And so like the moment, now it's a bit different at this point in my life, but when I come home from work, right? Or even if your workspace is your home and you're like, okay, this is a time I'm going to wind down. What does that look like? Maybe it's getting out of those clothes that you were in, taking a warm shower, start listening to relaxing music. Don't watch anything that's like, terrifying or
Don't
too
scroll on
like,
TikTok.
yeah,
Guilty.
stimulating, right? Yeah. Like, if that's something that doesn't jumble my husband, I don't want to hear it. Like I can't do that. Right. So for me, I'm just a different breed. So it's about what can I do or not do after a certain time, but what things can I do? It's all about soothing the little baby inside me, right? My inner child. What does she want? She wants peaceful colors in the house. Maybe she wants a candle lit, start burning some incense, a different kind of incense that's soothing, or a candle that is something that's going to lull me into a peaceful sleeping state, right? Because even though it's like, if I don't go to bed till like 10 or 11, right? Or 10, 9 to 11, whatever. Maybe it's not after 4 o'clock. That's it. It's getting into evening mode. Putting on those pajamas, something comfy that feels fun and light and comfy, and drinking nice soothing teas. Also like taking out that daily planner, at right before you get done with all that and go, okay, what things did I get to today? Yes, awesome celebrations. Good for you. You're a freaking badass. All right, what things do I need to do tomorrow? All right, let me be realistic about this and really organize. So doing that first and then going into like a physical, different kind of routine.
Yeah.
Also noticing like, and I did this the other night and it was too late, right? I was working until 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I go home at 10. I'm like, I'm going to have a salad. I'm not that hungry, but I'm just going to have a salad. I'm like, wait, I know my digestion. Like that's not good for me at that time. It's tight. So again, at that evening time, preparing for the next day, preparing for sleep, preparing for soothing, baby time, and preparing for the next day. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to do all those other extra things.
Oh man, you mentioned so many great nuggets of wisdom there. First, I want to talk about, though, the importance of, and you mentioned this, especially with getting in touch with your inner child, which I want to hear more about that, because I think that's something that we really struggle with, is figuring out what does our inner child actually like? What feels good to us? But building a routine that you enjoy is like the most important part. You need to love it. You need to look forward to it. And so finding those comfy pajamas, splurging on, a pair of slippers or a really cozy blanket, getting yourself some nice lavender, pillow mist spray, whatever it is that you really enjoy, that's going to be key to starting to actually develop and maintain this habit so that you can do it in the long term. And so how can people...
Pause 1 second. Let me kind of just pause for you 1 second.
Yeah.
Like for me, I like to be in like tie-dye camo and like wool socks that have a hole in it, right? Like that's my thing. So your night routine, it doesn't have to be like lavish and expensive. It's like what kind of feels fun and quirky, right? I like
Mm-hmm.
work, right? So it's like, I like to get in touch with that energy because then I keep it all day. So when I mess up, I can just like laugh at myself and I feel good about it. And I'm really light with my employees. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just fun, right? So again, it's really what feels fun. Go
Yeah.
outside of the box for whatever that is.
Yep.
You
I
know,
love that. It's so important to know
mud
exactly
masks,
what was that?
like mud masks
Mud
and, you
mask.
know,
Yes.
whatever, dancing around the house naked for a couple minutes, like just like something, right? Just try it out.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love this. How can people start to get in touch with their inner child and learn what feels good to them? Is it just a matter of experimenting and just kind of playing as if you're a kid again and just not having too much of a name other than to see what feels good? Or is there another way that you recommend people get in touch with this?
You know, I guess it's different for the individual. I could only really speak from myself and, but also in observing some people. So I guess, you know, everybody, like, we all let out like little nuggets of our inner child, whether it's like something that we have in our house or a song that we like that triggers something. So whatever, all that is like going back to like, don't even worry about the inner child. Like, what feels good?
Yep.
What feels good? What feels playful? What feels like, what feels good? And so just do that thing that feels good. Okay, I know I gotta unwind and get time, you know, come down for bed. What feels good? Oh, well, I like chamomile tea. I guess I'll have a cup of tea. No, make the tea purposeful. Wow, like, okay, this tea, you know, feels good. I put it in my favorite mug. Maybe I'll put a dash of cinnamon. All right, what are you gonna do when you have this tea? What are you
Yep.
gonna do? All right, I have like 5 books. I could read that book. I said I was going to read that book. Okay, but does that feel good right now? Or does it feel
Mm-hmm.
better just like, I don't know, stepping outside the house for a second and walking around in the yard? Maybe trying out walking a little barefoot and getting a little dirty. Is that like taboo, but does it feel good? You know, like just, or is it just something more basic, like I don't know, just sitting down on the couch for a couple minutes in quiet,
Yeah, I love
or
that.
drawing, or just like doodling for a couple minutes while I listen to a podcast that I like. But sometimes I have a hard time paying attention, so I'm just gonna pick up my drawing pad because I wanted to do that at the same time anyway, and I'm a little ADD, so maybe I'll just do that while I listen and I have my tea right next to me for 10 minutes.
It's almost too simple, right? Follow what feels good, but that's really the key. And this reminds me of something that I've heard about quite a bit recently, which is the idea of romanticizing your life, romanticizing the little moments. So when you're making that cup of tea, setting the intention to have a peaceful experience or have some sort of emotion come up, and really looking at your life almost as if there's a movie crew following you around and they're documenting you, and you're really trying to feel as if your life has, because it has so much more meaning and can have so much more intention that's so much more fulfilling than if we go about it in a more sort of subconscious run way, right? So this is, again, we're kind of moving from just operating out of the subconscious to consciously making decisions that feel good to us. And guys, one thing I also wanted to call out that she had mentioned is the importance of writing down what you're going to do before you go to sleep for the next day. So yes, brain dumping everything that you want to celebrate is so important. And you want to look at what's going to move the needle most for tomorrow, and, decide on 1 to 3 things that you're going to do and write that down, because by writing it down, even if it's just a brain dump and you haven't yet assigned those 3 items, getting that out of your brain and onto a piece of paper does wonders in helping you unplug and wind down. So I think that's such a valuable piece of advice. And I love this. I think it's so important. And I love that it seems so simple, right? To just follow what feels good. But we have a lot of resistance to that, I think, especially in our hustle culture. We're used to doing things that almost don't feel good. It's like, oh, well, I worked, 10 hours today, or, 12 hours today, and I really pushed myself. But we as a society almost like romanticize the not feeling good stuff that sort of gives us more value. Like, oh, I was super productive, but I burnt myself out. let's start romanticizing what actually feels good. And I love this idea of just experimenting with things, taking off your shoes, going outside. Do I like, grounding? Great. Let's add it to my routine. But I love this. I think it's so important. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would recommend to our listeners, or anything else you want to add in terms of what's so important in understanding how to reprogram our subconscious and really set ourselves up for success and getting unstuck?
Yeah, so I think it's just, stepping outside the box, right? Thinking about that Tigger energy or whatever, even if it's an animal or it's a cartoon character or whatever, like what kind of energy do you want to have in your life? It's energy, it's peace, it's like what kind of energy? It doesn't have to be so serious. That's the problem. Like it doesn't have to be so serious. You're gonna mess up. It doesn't have to be so serious, right?
Yeah.
My goal is to like love myself through this, but not to be heavy about it. Bounce back power. So also, I just, what's really helped me heal, because I was like always struggling with anxiety and all these things, PTSD, ADHD, a little OCD. I think we all kind of have it on our, drama, whatever. But it's really like a lot of the devices and the technologies that we have over here at Hope Healing Oasis, which is why we opened it. I had no business of it. I'm a full-time school teacher. My husband's a firefighter, but it was just a calling to give to the community, because these technologies literally changed my life, right? They changed my frequency, my biorhythm. They changed my mental state of mind. They helped me to vibe up, to vibe higher at a much faster rate. And also plants, having a lot of plants in your life, like not just plants in your house. I mean, I don't really have any sunlight, but like eating plants and like taking plants, like something that we're connecting with plants. So like something that we're doing at HHO is we're taking a spiritual plant medicine retreat down to Ecuador with a doctor that we've worked with for the last 5 years. And, I know that, this is maybe for another time, we have to go, but there's been a lot of buzz about, ayahuasca and plant medicines and are they good or not? But, these plants are in nature. They say that the Amazon is nature's pharmacy, right? And all these plants do, right, in the right setting and safeties and integration, it is help to clean out your subconscious, help you to just press reboot. So it can make falling into new habits a lot easier. So I'm not like sitting here promoting drugs. I'm not like saying, yeah, this or do that. I'm just saying, what seemed to be taboo for like maybe our parents' culture now, I mean, our world is becoming one. There's really with social media and everything, there's no difference from one country to another. It's so fluid and moving, and there's so much to learn from different people. So I just say, all in all, just stay in an open spirit where you can go out of the box and explore, start exploring slowly if you need to. And at other times you might leap faster with what feels good, whether it's going to a concert with friends or it's, just surrendering yourself in solitude, but being in more of a state of joy about it. Yeah. So that's it. Have BBP, some bounce back power.
Bounce back power. So I know we're running out of time and you have to run, but to wrap up this medicine or the conversation about plant medicine, I think that's so interesting. You're gonna have to tell me how this retreat goes and what comes up for people and what kind of transformations it makes, because I'm still sort of getting acquainted with this space. I've had small experiences with plant medicine myself, and when I've done it with intention, it has been one of the most powerful tools for me in moving forward and elevating. But of course, not for everyone. So please, don't think we're pushing anything on you guys. But no. It is an emerging thing. If you guys have seen How to Change Your Mind, it's a Netflix documentary. It digs into some of this, I believe. But
what's nice to know right now is like, my whole point in saying that is this. It's nice to know that we're at this point in history where we can not only explore options on a personal and a psychological level, but we have science backing it up. We have
Yep.
decades of science of, how these things actually impact our mind, and how, even all these technologies that we use at home, or even how meditation impacts our mind, and prayer. I mean, and this is like the last thing, right? So, we've heard, from every religion over time, to, pray before you eat. But, our thoughts literally change molecules. So, I mean, if anybody's ever questioning that, go look up Dr. Emoto's water experiment.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah. And it's like, 2 cups of water, both the same water, one spoken over it, I love you, the other one, I hate you, and the other one, nothing. And watch what happens to the molecules. And so it's the same thing with our food. And it's the same thing if I have all this power inside of me, and if I can offer everything in my life some love, joy, peace, and gratitude, then that's it. Your life is just going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll see that reflected back towards you. And I think that's really the power of positive intention, positive thoughts. Your thoughts create your reality. So if you take nothing else away from this meeting, take that. Your thoughts create your reality. If you believe that you can do something, you can. If you don't, you can't. And the way that you speak to yourself, to your surroundings, to others, deeply impacts how your mindset is, how you can show up for others, your success. So I hope that is that one bit of advice. If you take nothing else, you take that. But this was such an amazing conversation. I learned a ton. So thank you so much for joining us.
Fun with you. You're awesome.
I did too. This was so great. Yes. Thank you so much. And where can people find you?
So they can find me at Haute Healing Oasis. So we're a wellness center in Stamford, Connecticut, in Harbor Point. It's HAUTE. You can also find us on, are you there? There it goes.
Yes.
Can also find us on Instagram and on Facebook and on TikTok. So there we are.
You have a TikTok? Awesome. I love it. So that's awesome. So guys, go check her out. Haute Healing Oasis. I'll link it in the description as well for this video. But thank you again, Jessica. This was such an incredible conversation. I appreciate you joining us.